Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here. Happy Saturday morning. We're talking more Chris Harrison fallout. Of course, we know Chris Harrison left the franchise, The Bachelor, this year after 50 collective seasons between Bachelor and Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise and Bachelor Winter Games and Bachelor Bar Mitzvahs and whatever else, they got a lot going on there. Whatever shows they can sell, they're going to make at this point. And, of course, there's some fallout happening with Rachel Lindsay. Now, as we know, Rachel Lindsay was interviewing Chris Harrison on her extra TV show about very racially charged events that were happening in Bachelor Nation. He answered in a way that, of course, was insensitive in different ways. It's like an ink blot test. Some people don't see it, and that's a privilege if you don't see how it was insensitive. But if people are feeling hurt, it's worth the discussion. So anyway, Rachel Lindsay now is discussing what went down with their reaction to that. Of course, there's a giant fan base that are fans of Chris Harrison taking their anger out into Rachel Lindsay's vibe, even though, she is moved on from the franchise. She is no longer under contract with them. They still think that she's got nothing better to do than to sow all of this divide. A lot of people believe that, and you might be one of them. Let's just hear what she thinks about the matter. I'm going to play this clip from her podcast, Higher Learning with Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay, and respectfully in the comment section, voice your opinion, but let's just try to be as evolved and enlightened as possible and understand everyone's trying the best with the information they have. All right, let's get right into this clip. You can watch the whole thing on their YouTube or podcast app, wherever you listen to podcasts. It's Higher Learning's latest episode called Bachelor Nation Gets Aggressive, and let's get right into it.
Annoyed with is I don't want to keep hashing it out. Like, I'm not the spokesperson for when things go wrong in Bachelor Nation. There are so many other people who could speak and give opinions, but they always want to come to me. That's more of what I'm annoyed with than the comments. I'm used to the hate. That's just another day, another hater.
Mad people have been reaching out asking you to comment on it.
Everybody, you name it, everybody.
Who's the biggest outlet that's reached out?
CNN, GMA, Hollywood Reporter, different podcast, conservative podcasts.
Conservative podcasts. You should have done those.
We'll see.
You should do that. You should do those conservative podcasts. It's so interesting that like whiteness always needs an excuse.
You mean like somebody to blame, like
a
scapegoat?
Scapegoat, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be somebody else's fault.
It's wild to me. I mean, I'm not surprised at any of it. It's just more of, do you hear yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the confines of my job. So I ask a question, somebody answers, and it's my fault.
Right.
But it's my fault.
Right. Right. Bozeman was very upset about it.
That's my boy.
Bozeman was like, we were reading the comments together.
You were reading the comments? You were in the comments?
I was reading the comments to Bozeman. And Bozeman was like, yo, he looked at me. He's like, yo, how long we going to deal with this? This shit looks bad on us as a brand and as a family. I'm like, oh my God. So I had to post. But you're doing okay? Or like, has it been a lot? Has it been a lot from I see the Karens have come out in full strength to support Chris Harrison.
Karens are no stranger to me. I've said things here and there. Anytime I say something that, I guess, for lack of better words, threatens their white fragility, they come at me in the hundreds, in the thousands, really. So that's I think it's just more the context of why they're coming at me this time that it's just so ridiculous.
So obviously we're talking about the fact that Chris Harrison is gone. The range of the numbers that are here from Chris Harrison's suggested payout or alleged payout is anywhere between $40 and $69.9 million. I don't know why they put the 0.9 on there.
I don't think it's that much.
They could have said 70. They could have said 69. You don't think it's that much money?
No. Just
for a spark notes, I wanted to let people know, because we're all here about learning and growth. Some people hear the term white fragility and they've never heard what it was. So the actual textbook definition of white fragility is discomfort and defensiveness on the part of a white person when confronted by information about racial inequality and injustice. Oh, Good to know what the term white fragility is. It's really about letting down the ego when confronted with a world that might not be seen through such rose-colored lenses as yours.
That's the first time I've heard that figure. I've heard more of like 20, 25.
Nah, he probably got the 69.9 because he a freak. So he was probably like,
Okay.
I know I can look at a freak and tell. You know what I'm saying? He freaky. Like under those suits, he probably got 2 nipple rings. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
So he a freak. So he was probably like, yo, how much you want? How much you want? We don't want you to talk no shit about the Bachelor. You ride away into the sunset. And he probably I want 69 million. And then he licked
If
his
it's
tongue out.
69, that's a wild amount.
It's a lot of money. But look, here's the thing though, and here's the difference. It's like when we fuck up, we don't get no $69 million, and to blame it on somebody else.
Well, I mean,
like they get Chris Harrison right now is acting like, and look, I don't think he should have been fired. I'm well on the record.
yeah, you've said that.
I'm well on the record saying I don't think he should have been fired, but I'm looking at some of the stuff and people are making it look like he's fucking Joan of Arc. Like he's not a martyr. He's
Bingo.
not I don't know.
But you kind of become that when cancel culture takes you down, right? And that's what's happened. Like
Cancel
people
culture.
are saying people are saying he's a victim of cancel culture. He was canceled. So you do when they let him go or whatever terminology they're using, he did become the face of it. He did become a sort of martyr, which
This is so big. This is so spot on. I got to get the refs. I wanted to blow the whistle because it was like, timeout, halftime. This is so spot on. Chris Harrison becomes the martyr when they cancel him. And I know people saying it's not canceling, it's accountability. The fact that he lost his job, whether he left there on a severance package or whatnot, that creates a martyr-like system. This is the exact same reason, now stick with me, why I didn't think it was a good idea to evoke an amendment to remove Trump from the office before his presidency was over. People were saying, oh, he's unfit for office, they need to remove him. I was like, no, he needs to be voted out or else he becomes a martyr and then you don't change anybody's minds. It has to be done a certain way. Okay, so for Chris Harrison, obviously we're not talking about an election where he's voted out, but by him leaving the show not on the terms that they can grapple with, he's a martyr and lessons are not learned. Very interesting that Van says, all joking aside, he says he doesn't think Chris Harrison should be fired. Very interesting that they're calling him a martyr now.
I think the most interesting thing is when people tell me he gave you everything. How dare you? And I'm looking around like that's what people say. He gave me everything. So how dare I?
Which, by the way, is the same thing when an NFL football player takes a knee. That's the same thing as saying shut up and play. You make millions of dollars and people say, listen, in the football world, I know it's a different scenario here, but it's not about the money I make. It's about, you take the knee because you're protesting injustices within the policing of our country. It's nothing against the troops. It's about a very specific thing. And you say it a million times, this is what it's about. It's about injustice. It's about injustice within our legal system and all that. And it's like, we're spelling it out. We're saying exactly what it's for, and yet it's still manipulated into something that it's not.
He give you anything?
No. I mean, it's hard to say no. Like I shouldn't say that because when there's advice that's given, when you're the lead. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he gave me advice.
All right, he gave you advice. He gave you advice, and you feel like that was useful advice. So you in your past, contrary to popular belief, you have not had a contentious relationship with Chris Harrison.
No, I haven't had a contentious relationship with Chris at all.
What a wild time.
Which is why he agreed to come on our show and do an interview because there is no beef.
All right. I mean,
there never.
This is good information here. Sorry, I'm becoming a ref. So if you're going to become a ref, you need to do it properly. So this is good information here. So basically, what we're saying is, they're saying that Chris Harrison agreed to be on the show. So why hasn't that conversation happened? I mean, if No, hold on. Flag on the play. Why hasn't the conversation happened where $11, guys? Thank you so much for the Patreon members for helping me live my dreams here as Ref Dave. Why hasn't the conversation happened on the show? And now because he's leaving with a $69 million or $25 million, whatever it may be. Now that he's leaving with that sort of severance package, we're not going to have these uncomfortable, difficult conversations. Okay? So why didn't that conversation happen? They said they invited him. Now, do we blame Chris Harrison? It's like, Chris, were you invited on the show? Were you waiting for things to settle down? Were you given bad advice by the Bachelor producers the way they gave bad advice to Rachel Kirkconnell? Although I won't put Chris Harrison in the same world as Rachel Kirkconnell. Okay, she's 22, 23. You know, they could literally bully her or influence her not to talk to the press till after the final rose so they can sell more Dove soap. Fine, so be it. But Chris Harrison's 49, 50 years old, right? So he should be getting out there. He should have been getting out there, having the conversations. I truly believe he loved his world in the Bachelor world. I believe he felt like it was a part of his identity. I just don't know why he didn't publicly try harder to speak out and have his name restored. So they said they invited him on. Very interesting.
Perhaps.
There's no beef. Now there is no cow because he's off the farm, you know? By the way, this is not the last we'll hear from Chris Harrison.
I need
Chris
a flag.
Harrison,
Need a flag.
No.
well, he's a very good TV man. He'll be back on the show in very soon. And he's got bread. He's got some money. I feel like the dismissal or the departure of Chris Harrison is a net loss.
Exactly.
For who?
Everyone involved.
Touchdown.
And I mean, not you specifically because you did nothing.
Net
You
loss.
were on the other side of someone being insensitive. So I don't even understand the logic, but whatever. Like privilege is never logic. So whatever. Logical. It doesn't matter.
Deep.
I think this once again shows everybody is too cowardly to confront these things head on. The reality is that there does have to be in a world where you could go to the party. I don't know why you would want to go to the party, but where you can go to the party, you come back and be like, hey, I understand that was wrong. Know better, do better. To where we have as much trust in each other as neighbors in the society where we can do that. There's a world where Chris gets on there with 50 years or 40 some odd years of privilege and makes an ass out of himself on Extra to where he can come back and be like, look, like I feel this way, I feel that way, but I get that this is not the time to like put this out there, or it's not the time to speak on something that you don't really know what you're talking about. And I should have been more open to having a dialogue rather than to dress down Rachel on the show. And where the people at ABC and everybody else goes, okay, look, this big thing happened. Let's talk about it, put it behind us and move on with the show. And to where everybody that's watching the show and enjoying it, and everybody on the other side of it, to where the issues that face The Bachelor or Bachelor Nation, to where there's a full-throated attempt to address those issues, right?
Yeah.
Touchdown, extra point, 2-point conversion. It's good. Game winner. This is the opinion I most closely resemble here. Don't make him a martyr. Get him out there. And again, we don't know. I don't know if he had some airtight thing where he has to do pre-approved. Listen, they do have these kind of crazy contracts. Now, I think Chris Harrison can speak for himself, even if he was under contract. Like, I'm sure Matt James is violating his contract. It's just a guess because Matt James went on the Pomp podcast, or the Pomp podcast, Anthony Pompliano's. It's a really good episode. But like, for sure, that wasn't an approved podcast. You know, like people, they can't go on my podcast. I'm not approved. They have to go on Bachelor this or Chicks in the Office or Regis and Kelly. They get the approval before they talk. Now, Chris Harrison, he's top dog in the organization as far as the front of the office goes, front of the house here. So you have to think that he can come out there and talk and do this. So we just don't know why. That would be the one question I would ask him is like, Chris, why? I know people said it takes time for space, and I never really understood that when people say, oh, you need to step back and listen. I get listening, But part of growth is being the kid in class asking questions. Part of growth is, like Emmanuel Acho says, asking dumb questions. You ask a bunch of stupid questions until you start asking smart questions. And it might, like, why isn't that happening? I'm so upset about this. If I were to take Van's point of view here, people look at me and, like, I'm an apologist for Chris Harrison. It's like, no. I want growth. I want unity. I want us to come closer together because I believe we're a lot closer on these issues than we are apart. And by having him out there, maybe it does justice to one person. And someone said in my comment section, the reason that Chris Harrison shouldn't be on the show is because his abusers shouldn't have to face him. Now, it's up to Rachel Lindsay to decide if he's her abuser. I don't believe she said those words. She said she's not upset with him. She said she's forgiven him and all those things. So I understand in a world where, like, I understand that people get deplatformed because you don't want to trigger people that they've hurt when it's like big time violations. But the conversation's been so nuanced, which is why there has been so many different opinions about it. Nuanced, not in the sense that anyone, like, I'm not saying what Chris Harrison did was right. I'm saying is, in order for it to grow and evolve, all the people that listen to Chris Harrison and don't listen to me or Van Lathan or Rachel Lindsay, they need to learn and see that growth through Chris Harrison. And if he's not willing to do that, we need to see that he's not willing to do it. I don't think we're given that choice, and that's what a martyr is, right? Not him going out and signing an NDA probably and not talking about it. Now we'll never know. And it was a big learning opportunity.
Yeah.
But once again, that's not what happened. What happened was people cut bait and they ran to their corners and they ran to their sides. And that's what we're going to do for the rest of the time.
Well, I think this is one of those things where we weren't at the table. We have no idea what happened in mediation and what was put out there from either side. And I think I agree with you in that sense. I think that, when Chris came out and he apologized not once, not twice in writing, but then a third time on television, he said he was going to take the time to do the work. And that's why I said on Extra that I was surprised that the announcement was made. And I mean that. I thought it was. I thought that we talked about it literally last week. I thought they were going to wait and see kind of some things that happened. But I have to keep reminding myself, we don't know what else was at stake. We don't know what other issues there may be. We don't know if there was bad blood. We do know, according to the article that was put out there, that, he did threaten them of what he would do if they didn't pay him a certain amount of money. And so that's what the article said, not my words. No, that's what the article said.
That's funny as hell.
What do you expect Chris Harrison to do, though? Just politely go into the night knowing the Bachelor producers are just as, a complicit in this situation? You know what I mean? It's almost like, oh, I'm the bad guy? No, these guys are the bad guys. I know they did X, Y, and Z. I know they did this. I was sticking, all of the things we don't know what might have happened behind the stage. So it's like, it's foolish. And I'm not saying Rachel Lindsay's, her opinions are foolish, but it'd be foolish to think that no one would do the same thing in a employee-employer situation. You built up 20 years worth of equity, 20 years worth of knowledge, and then you're not going to use that to get the utmost biggest severance package when you're forced out the door. The Bachelor producers, they were going to kick this can so far down the road because they're spineless. They really are. I mean, the corporations want to do the least amount of damage, right? They'll wave a pride flag in the U.S., but they won't wave it on their Instagram in the Arab Emirates. I mean, this is how it is. We're all hypocritical here. So they're going to do what is best for their bottom dollar. If they decide that Chris Harrison's not going to be valuable to them because they held up their ratings with someone else, then they were going to cut ties with him 2 or 3 seasons down the road. It was almost like his best leverage in marketing, his best leverage and approach in this battle was to give them that event horizon, which was Monday night, to have Brian Friedman, very powerful attorney at law, say, no, it's now or never. What's the deal going to be? Because if they kick it any farther down the road, he might lose stock in his negotiating.
That's funny as hell, but I'm sorry. I did not mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. It's almost like he was saying he knows where the bones are buried. And if you don't pay a certain amount, it sounded like on one end they had made up their mind. So he's like, okay, well, if this is the decision that you make, then you need to fully compensate me because of what I know. I've been here since the beginning. So again, we weren't privy to all of that. We have no idea why the decision was made and how it all went down and why they decided on that amount to pay him. But I do think that it could have been a learning experience should they have gone another way, because talked about a world of you go to that party and then you realize how wrong it is, and like you make amends for that and say you're going to do better. Well, that's exactly what happened to Rachel Kirkconnell, and she's with Matt James, and so there was a world where that can happen and you can be forgiven. And people,
with the Matt James and Rachel Kirkconnell situation, they aren't owned and operated by a corporation. They can't be fired. That's the difference between Chris Harrison, and that's why no one wants to work a job anymore. We're all over here on YouTube because no one wants to get fired for something. That's just not the world people want to live in. That's the difference. And also Rachel Kirkconnell. If Rachel Kirkconnell worked for a company where they could have tried to cancel her, they would have.
people move on.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side
You
of
have
it.
the other side of it. I'm very interested in the fact that you said he knows where the bones are buried.
Has to. For you to make that kind of threat, according to again, people, according to the Deadline article, these are not my words.
Deadline.
According to that article, his attorney made certain statements. If you don't do this, then this will happen because he knows this.
Well, I think for me more so it was about the fact that these bones, they're buried, right? And their bodies, because you said normally people say they know where the bodies are buried, but these are so old that the bodies have already decomposed in their bones.
Well,
so it's not the
since
bodies,
the inception
it's
of the franchise.
Inception. Christopher Nolan. So you are, but you're feeling okay. You're like, you're feeling good, because I know you had deactivated your Instagram back in the day. Would you think, do we see another Instagram deactivation coming? Not this time. No.
And people ask me, why don't you mute your comments either? Because I want y'all to see where hatred lives. I want y'all to see how people talk. Like, don't hide in my DMs. No, these people are outright
She's shining a mirror
putting their faces out there with Bible verses in their bios, coming at me from left field.
Right. We should have
attacking my appearance, attacking my intellect.
What they say about your appearance?
Attacking my character. They always talk about my teeth.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's true.
You heard it there. Van is behind all the faceless Instagram comments that I get.
What if
Those
it was
nasty
all me?
ones.
What if it was all me? Yo, check this out. We're going to get her again, Bozeman. Come here. So, no, you've been getting a lot of it, and you want people to see it, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to mute it. See how people talk to me.
I'll be honest with you. So there have been a lot of people, a lot of the thought warriors that were like, don't do this topic, because they think that I am a little too jovial about, Chris Harrison's situation and what happened between you and Chris Harrison, and they thought that I was going to poke fun. I would never poke fun at Rachel being harassed on the internet. Like, I'm not going to poke fun at that. Like, it's not. But the only thing that's comical about the entire situation is that this is all so serious. First of all, it just tells you how valuable the Bachelor franchise is and what a big deal it is. But people are going so hard. There's this one particular person that
I'm going to stop it here, guys. You can watch the rest of this. That's the first. There's a few more minutes of it, but we got all the big details here. We know where they stand. We know where Van stands. Rachel Lindsay says, I'm sick of being the burden, for the show. She's sick bearing the burden. She's sick of being the one who has to blow the whistle. Hey, listen, Rachel Lindsay, I'll blow I got the whistle. I bought the $11 hat. I'll speak up as much as I can too. You know what? For everyone who's going to leave a negative comment, unless it's overtly racist or hateful, or if it doesn't violate the YouTube, I don't curate the comments. For the same reason that Rachel doesn't curate her comments, I want people to see that this is where people are in society. Now, don't get me wrong. For every negative comment and super positive comment, people are in 90% in the middle. It's a fat Venn diagram. Most people are in the middle there and understand everyone's trying the best with the information they have. It's like Yelp. You either love the food or you hate the food so much you want to leave a comment, right? No one's ever 3 stars to Yelp. What's going on, Tasha? I'm finishing up right now. Tasha just got home. Do you like my hat, Tasha? Tasha sees my hat here. All right, you see that? Yeah. All right. So anyway, and then Van says he doesn't think Chris Harrison should be fired. Now Rachel didn't say whether she thinks Chris Harrison should be fired or not, but they did agree that he's a martyr. And that's the most interesting part about this conversation is they brought up the fact that he's a martyr because the difficult conversation won't happen now. ABC cut bait. ABC and The Bachelor. Everyone looks at this and says, "Oh, Chris Harrison took the money and ran." You know who did the easy thing? ABC and The Bachelor. They did the safe thing. They're a giant company. The Bachelor is a gigantic franchise. They did the safe thing by cutting bait, by getting rid of Chris Harrison versus airing out their dirty laundry. I've said this all along. Give me the Bachelor producers in a round table. Let's turn the cameras on them. Let's have these difficult conversations about lack of diversity in the storytelling room, in the casting department, and this and that. Let's have those conversations. Why? Because it's fascinating. Everyone says, oh, it's supposed to be just some stupid dating show. It's too big. It's a segment of our lives. It's a reflection of where we are in the country, and we're very divided under certain issues, not necessarily because I think we're far off on these issues. I think we're divided because we latch on to different aspects of the story. One side says, oh my gosh, Rachel Lindsay's a meanie. She's so divisive. And then Rachel goes, I was just doing my job. I asked him a question. He kind of dug his own grave. You know what I mean? So anyway, Van calls it a net loss. I agree with Van. I think it's a net loss. I think there are some winners. Oh, you can see that you can't just say anything and not get fired by your employer. Of course, your employer can fire you. But the net loss is the fact that it's like, all right, there was a lesson to be learned there. But instead, they just lit the lesson on fire instead of what they could have actually done, which is explain the lesson to the masses. He said they were too cowardly to confront these issues head on. I couldn't agree more. Or I couldn't agree less. I couldn't agree more. That's been Ref Dave. We have a win for Van and a win for Rachel. And I hope it's a win for you guys by taking the time to understand the complexities of the scenario and understanding that while I can't fully take the blame off of Chris Harrison. I wish he fought harder in the public eye to have these difficult conversations. You know, it's almost like, well, you hit the nuclear code, but what led up to that? We would have loved to be able to watch that go down. You know, we would have loved to be able to see him on Higher Learning Podcast, on Joe Rogan, on NPR, on any platform that will have him. CNN and Fox News. I don't care. Go to the right wing, talk. Go to the progressive side, talk. We just would have loved to be able to dissect some of this information. It's like I want to work with numbers that I just don't have here. So it's really a shame. And of course, ABC, they cut him loose. I'm going to go ahead and blame them because they actually are bigger than Chris Harrison. ABC and The Bachelor is obviously worth more money because they were willing to cut ties with him. And how funny would it be in the next season? They're like, and the next season is going to take place in Des Moines, Iowa, because we couldn't afford to travel abroad. We'll have to see how it goes. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. And of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want more content tomorrow, Sunday, I'm recording this Friday night. Spoiler, going to the beach on Saturday. But on Sunday at 5 p.m., I'm going to be doing a Patreon-only episode. That's a Patreon live stream at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can check that. It's a great way to chat with us and hang out before we get into the next work week. So anyway, folks, let me know what you guys think. Please keep it nice and peaceful in the comment section. I'll talk to you guys later. Good night, everybody.